The police lights flashed red and blue across the quiet street. Neighbors stood outside in their pajamas, whispering and holding their phones. No one could believe what they were seeing. Officers walked in and out of the small white house at the corner. A stretcher rolled out slowly, covered in a black bag. Mrs. Carter covered her mouth. "No, not him," she whispered. Because the man in that house was Mr. Daniel Reed. The same man who waved every morning. The same man who fixed broken fences for free. The same man who brought cookies to the neighborhood kids. And now, the police were saying something that made everyone's heart drop. The killer lived next door for years, and no one suspected him. A young officer turned to the crowd and said, "We need everyone to go back inside. This is now an active investigation." But just as the stretcher reached the ambulance, something strange happened. The bag moved. One of the officers froze. "Wait, did you see that?" The zipper slowly twitched. And then, everything went quiet. What was really inside that bag? 3 years earlier, the street had felt like the safest place in the world. It was a calm neighborhood in a small town. Kids rode bikes. Dogs barked happily. Everyone knew each other. Emily Parker had just moved into the house next door with her dad. She was 10 years old and loved drawing pictures of houses and trees. On her first day, she saw Mr. Daniel Reed. He stood in his yard, watering his plants. He smiled and waved. "Hi there. You must be new," he said in a friendly voice. Emily waved back. "Yes, sir." Her dad shook his hand. "Nice to meet you. I'm Mark Parker." "Daniel Reed," he replied. "If you need anything, just let me know." And he meant it. Over time, Mr. Reed became everyone's favorite neighbor. He helped Mrs. Carter carry groceries. He fixed Mr. Lopez's broken gate. He even gave candy to kids on Halloween extra candy. Best neighbor ever, people would say. Emily liked him too. He was always kind. But sometimes, she felt something odd. One evening, while drawing by her window, Emily looked outside. Mr. Reed was standing in his backyard. But he wasn't moving. He was just staring. Not at the sky. Not at the trees. He was staring at her house. Emily felt a chill. She pulled her curtain shut. The next day, everything felt normal again. Birds chirped. The sun shone. Mr. Reed waved like always. "Morning, Emily," he called. "Morning," she replied, forcing a smile. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Nothing bad happened. Until one night, Emily woke up to a strange sound. A soft thump. Then another. She sat up in bed, heart beating fast. "Dad," she whispered. No answer. The sound came again. Thump, thump. It was coming from outside. Slowly, Emily walked to her window. She pushed the curtain just a little. And what she saw made her freeze. In Mr. Reed's backyard, under the dim light, was a large hole in the ground. And Mr. Reed was standing beside it, holding a shovel. But he wasn't alone. There was something else there. Something wrapped. And as he turned slightly, the light hit his face. He was smiling. Then suddenly, he looked straight at Emily's window. Mr. Reed's eyes locked onto Emily's window. Emily's heart jumped so hard it felt like it might burst. She dropped the curtain and stepped back, her hands shaking. "He saw me," she whispered. For a moment, she couldn't move. The room felt too quiet. Even the air felt heavy. Then, tap. Emily froze. Tap, tap. The sound came from her window. Slowly, very slowly, she turned her head. Tap, tap, tap. Someone was outside. Her breath caught in her throat. She wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Then a soft voice spoke through the glass. "Emily, it's just me." It was Mr. Reed. "I think you saw something you shouldn't have," he said calmly. Emily backed away, shaking her head. "No, no." The tapping stopped. Silence. A long, heavy silence. Emily waited, her eyes fixed on the window. 1 minute. 2 minutes. Nothing. Finally, she ran to her dad's room. "Dad! Dad, wake up!" she cried, shaking him. Mark Parker opened his eyes slowly. "Emily, what's wrong?" There's something outside. Mr. Reed, he's digging. And there's something in the ground." Her dad sat up, confused. "Slow down. What are you talking about?" "I saw him. He was burying something. And he saw me." Mark frowned, then got out of bed. "Okay, stay here." "No. Don't go alone." Emily grabbed his arm. "It's fine," he said gently. "I'll just take a look." He walked to Emily's room and pulled the curtain open. The backyard next door was empty. No hole. No shovel. No Mr. Reed. Just quiet grass under the moonlight. "See," Mark said. "Nothing there." "But I saw it," Emily insisted. "I promise, Dad." Mark sighed softly. "You probably had a bad dream. It happens." "It wasn't a dream," she said, her voice shaking. But her dad just gave her a tired smile. "Come on. Let's get you back to bed." Emily lay down, but she didn't sleep. She kept staring at the window. Waiting. Watching. Morning came too fast. The sun made everything look safe again. At breakfast, her dad acted normal, like nothing had happened. "You've got school today," he said. "Try to focus, okay?" Emily nodded, but her mind was somewhere else. When she stepped outside, she saw him. Mr. Reed. Standing by his mailbox. Smiling. "Good morning, Emily," he said. Her stomach twisted. "Morning," she replied quietly. He tilted his head slightly. "You look tired. Bad dreams." Emily said nothing. He chuckled softly. "Don't worry. Sometimes our minds play tricks on us." Then he leaned a little closer. "But sometimes," he added in a low voice, "they don't." Emily stepped back quickly. "I have to go," she said, hurrying away. All day at school, she couldn't focus. Her teacher called her name twice. Her friend Jessica asked if she was okay. "I'm fine," Emily said, but she wasn't. That night, she made a decision. If no one believed her, she would find proof. She waited until her dad fell asleep. Then she quietly got out of bed. She grabbed her small flashlight and crept to the window. The backyard next door was dark. Still. Silent. Emily took a deep breath. "I can do this," she whispered. Slowly, she opened her window and climbed out. Her feet touched the cold grass. Every step felt loud, even though she was trying to be quiet. She reached the fence. Carefully, she peeked over. Nothing. She climbed over and dropped into Mr. Reed's yard. The ground looked normal. No hole. No signs of digging. Emily frowned. "Maybe I was wrong," she whispered. Then, her foot hit something hard. She looked down. A piece of wood. No, not just wood. A board. She knelt and brushed the dirt away. It looked like part of something buried. Her hands trembled as she pulled at it. The board shifted slightly. And from underneath, a smell. A terrible, awful smell. Emily covered her nose. "What is that?" Suddenly, a light turned on behind her. Emily froze. A shadow stretched across the ground. And a voice spoke calmly in the dark. "You really shouldn't be here. You really shouldn't be here." Emily's whole body went cold. She turned slowly. Mr. Reed stood behind her, holding a flashlight. The light shined right into her eyes, making it hard to see his face. But she could still see his smile. It was not the same friendly smile anymore. It was wrong. I was just... Emily tried to speak, but her voice shook too much. Mr. Reed took a slow step closer. "Looking for something?" he asked softly. Emily backed away. Her foot slipped on the dirt, and she almost fell. "I didn't mean to, I just..." He tilted his head, watching her carefully. "You saw me the other night, didn't you?" Emily said nothing. Her silence was enough. Mr. Reed nodded slowly. "I was hoping you would forget." Another step closer. Emily's heart pounded so loud it hurt. "You're a smart girl," he continued. "But smart kids sometimes make dangerous choices." Emily suddenly turned and ran. Her feet hit the ground fast and hard as she rushed toward the fence. She could hear him behind her. Not running, walking. That made it even worse. She climbed the fence as fast as she could, slipping once, scraping her knee. She didn't stop. She jumped down into her yard and sprinted to her window. She climbed inside and slammed it shut. Her chest rose and fell quickly as she locked it. Then, tap. Emily gasped. Mr. Reed stood on the other side of the glass, still smiling. He raised one finger slowly and pressed it against his lips. "Sure," he mouthed. Then he turned and walked away into the darkness. Emily didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, her dad noticed the scrape on her knee. "What happened?" Mark asked. "I fell," she said quickly. "Where?" "In the backyard." He looked at her for a moment, like he didn't fully believe her. "Be more careful, okay?" Emily nodded. She wanted to tell him everything again. But what if he didn't believe her? Or worse, what if he told Mr. Reed? At school, Emily felt different, like someone was watching her. She kept looking over her shoulder. At lunch, her friend Jessica sat next to her. "You're acting weird," Jessica said. "What's going on?" Emily hesitated. Then she leaned closer and whispered, "I think my neighbor is hiding something." Jessica raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" "I don't know, but I saw him digging at night. And there was something buried." Jessica looked unsure. "Maybe it's just, I don't know, gardening." "At midnight," Emily said. Jessica didn't answer. Emily sighed. "I need proof." After school, Emily didn't go straight home. Instead, she went to the small library near the park. It was quiet inside. She walked to the computer and sat down. Her hands shook as she typed. Daniel Reed. Nothing special came up. Just normal stuff. Too normal. Emily frowned. Then she tried something else. Missing people near me. A list appeared. Faces. Names. Dates. Her eyes scanned the screen. Then she stopped. One picture caught her attention. A boy, about 12 years old, smiling. Under the picture were the words, "Missing, last seen 2 years ago." Emily leaned closer. Her heart began to race. Behind the boy in the photo was a house. A white house, with a fence, and a tree in the yard. Emily knew that house. It was Mr. Reed's house. Her hands started shaking again. "No way," she whispered. She clicked the photo. More details appeared. Last seen playing outside his home. No suspects. No answers. Just gone. Emily quickly printed the page. The printer made loud noises that made her jump. She grabbed the paper and rushed outside. The sky was getting darker. She ran all the way home. As she reached her street, she slowed down. Everything looked normal. Too normal. She walked up to her house slowly. Then she noticed something. Her front door was open. Emily froze. "I closed that," she whispered. Her heart pounded again. "Dad," she called out softly. No answer. She stepped inside. The house was quiet. Too quiet. "Dad," she called again. Still nothing. Then, a sound. From the kitchen. A soft scraping noise. Emily took a slow step forward. Then another. She turned the corner. And her eyes went wide. The printed paper slipped from her hand. Standing in the kitchen was Mr. Reed, holding something in his hand. Something sharp. And behind him, Emily's dad lay on the floor, not moving. Emily couldn't breathe. Her eyes stayed locked on her dad lying on the floor. "Dad," she whispered. Mr. Reed turned slowly. The knife in his hand caught the light. "Oh," he said softly. "You're home early." Emily stepped back, her hands shaking. "What did you do to him?" Mr. Reed glanced down at Mark. He asked too many questions. Emily's heart felt like it dropped into her stomach. "No, no, you're lying," she said, her voice breaking. Mr. Reed took a small step forward. "I tried to keep things simple. Quiet. But you made that very hard, Emily. I didn't do anything, she cried. You came into my yard, he said calmly. You started digging. You looked where you shouldn't look. Emily's eyes filled with tears. I just wanted to know the truth. Mr. Reed smiled again. That same cold, wrong smile. And now you do, he said. Emily's back hit the wall. There was nowhere else to go. Her mind raced. Think. Her eyes quickly moved around the room. Table, chair, door, phone. The phone was on the counter. Too far. Mr. Reed noticed where she looked. He chuckled. You won't reach it in time. Emily swallowed hard. Why are you doing this? She asked, stalling. Why hurt people? Mr. Reed tilted his head slightly, like he was thinking. Some people, he said slowly, don't matter as much as others. That's not true. Emily shouted. It is to me, he replied calmly. Another step closer. Emily's hands clenched. You can't just take people. I already have, he said. The room felt smaller. The air felt tight. Emily looked at her dad again. He wasn't moving. But then, was that a breath? Her eyes widened slightly. He was alive. Emily forced herself not to react. If Mr. Reed noticed, it would be over. Please, she said softly. Just let us go. We won't tell anyone. Mr. Reed shook his head. That's not how this works. Emily's heart pounded louder. Think, Emily. Suddenly, she grabbed the chair next to her and threw it hard. It hit Mr. Reed's arm. The knife slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. Emily didn't wait. She ran, fast, straight for the door. Behind her, she heard him shout for the first time. Emily! She yanked the door open and rushed outside. Help! Somebody help! She screamed. Lights flicked on in nearby houses. Doors opened. Neighbors stepped out. Mrs. Carter gasped. Emily! What's wrong? He's inside. He hurt my dad. Emily cried. People started shouting. Someone called the police. Emily turned back toward the house. And froze. Mr. Reed stood in the doorway, watching her. Not running. Not chasing. Just watching. Then, slowly, he smiled. Sirens began to wail in the distance. Loud. Getting closer. Red and blue lights soon filled the street. Police cars screeched to a stop. Officers jumped out with weapons ready. Drop your weapon, one officer shouted. Mr. Reed raised his empty hands slowly. Calm. Too calm. I think there's been a misunderstanding, he said. Emily shook her head violently. No. He did it. He hurt my dad. Officers rushed inside. Moments later, one of them shouted, We need medical here. He's still breathing. Emily felt tears rush down her face. He's alive, she whispered. Two officers grabbed Mr. Reed and placed him in handcuffs. He didn't fight. He didn't say anything. He just kept looking at Emily. That same quiet smile. As they led him to the police car, he leaned slightly toward her. And in a low voice he said, You only found one. Emily froze. What? She whispered. But he was already being pushed into the car. The door slammed shut. Sirens faded as the ambulance rushed her dad away. Neighbors crowded around Emily, asking questions. But she couldn't answer. Her mind was stuck on those 4 words. You only found one. That night, the police searched Mr. Reed's house. They dug up the backyard. They looked everywhere. Emily sat wrapped in a blanket, watching from across the street. An officer finally walked toward her. His face looked serious. Emily, he said gently, we found something. Her heart stopped. What is it? She asked. The officer hesitated. Then he spoke. We found more than we expected. Emily felt a chill run through her body. How many? She whispered. The officer didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked back at the house, then back at her, and said quietly, There's something else you need to see. Emily's legs felt weak as she followed the officer. The flashing lights still painted the street red and blue. Neighbors stood in small groups, whispering. Everything felt unreal, like a bad dream she couldn't wake up from. The officer stopped near Mr. Reed's yard. The ground was no longer smooth. It was torn open. There were holes. More than one. Emily covered her mouth. "No," she whispered. Other officers moved carefully, placing markers in the dirt. Some looked serious. Some looked sick. "How many?" Emily asked again, her voice shaking. The officer knelt slightly so he could look at her. "We're still counting." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "You said there was something else," she said. The officer nodded. He pointed toward the back of the house. "We didn't just find things in the yard," he said. "We found something inside too." Emily felt her stomach twist. "Inside?" She followed him slowly. Each step felt heavier than the last. They entered the house. It looked normal at first. A couch. A table. Pictures on the wall. Just like always. Just like the house of a kind neighbor. But then the officer led her to a door. It was small. Locked. "We had to break it open," he said. Emily stared at it. Her heart beat faster. "What's inside?" she whispered. The officer didn't answer right away. Instead, he gently pushed the door open. A dark stairway went down. Cold air drifted up. Emily hesitated. "I'll be right here," the officer said kindly. She nodded slowly. Then, step by step, she walked down. The stairs creaked under her feet. It got colder. Darker. At the bottom, a light was already on. And what she saw made her freeze. It was a room. But not a normal room. There were boxes. Chains. Old toys. Shoes. Lots of shoes. Emily's breath caught. "These belong to them," she whispered. Her eyes moved slowly across the room. Then she saw the wall. Pictures. So many pictures. Different kids. Different faces. All smiling. All unaware. Emily felt tears roll down her cheeks. "He knew them," she said. "He watched them." The officer stepped closer behind her. "We think he chose people he could get close to. People who trusted him." Emily shook her head slowly. "All this time," she said, "he lived right next to us." Her voice broke. "And no one knew." The officer's face was heavy with sadness. "Sometimes, the scariest people don't look scary." Emily wiped her tears. "What happens now?" she asked. "He'll be locked away," the officer said. "For a very long time." Emily nodded, but it didn't make her feel better. Nothing could. Days passed. Her dad survived. He was weak, but he smiled when he saw her. "You were very brave," he told her. Emily hugged him tightly. "I was really scared." "I know," he said softly. The neighborhood changed. It wasn't the same anymore. The houses were still there. The trees still stood tall. But something felt different. Something felt broken. People didn't smile as much. They locked their doors earlier. They watched more closely. As for Mr. Reed, he was gone. Taken away. But the truth he left behind stayed. One evening, Emily stood by her window again. The same window she had looked through that night. The yard next door was empty now. Quiet. No more secrets. She held the printed paper of the missing boy. Now, he wasn't just missing anymore. He had been found. Emily took a deep breath. Then she slowly closed the curtain. Because some things were better left in the dark. And as the street grew quiet again, one thought stayed in her mind. The killer lived next door for years. And no one suspected him.